Hello, this is Bill Bateman and welcome to week 4 of financial reporting and analysis. I'd like to spend some time with you going over the expectations for this week's class. You'll see that we have a number of readings this week, and the first 3 readings on the list here are new material or further explanation of material that we may have already covered. The income statement affects the balance sheet, the question of LIFO or FIFO, and note on accounting for intangible assets. These are areas that sometimes students need a little more help on, and so I've got 3 readings here, and probably at least one of these will be the subject of the second discussion question this week. The next reading, Bramos Printing, is you'll have to become familiar with that in order to participate in the first discussion board question, which I'll go over in a second. And then the 5th reading here at the bottom of the page is a note on generally accepted accounting principles. And this will be a resource for you to use as you complete your individual case assignment, Marion Boats. So let's take a look now at the discussion board question for the week. And you'll see that down on week 4, it says that you must answer the first part of this question before you can participate in the discussion board. So this is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. But you'll see why in a minute, why that's important. So using the knowledge you've created so far, complete the attached spreadsheet for Bramos Printing. So you'll find that again in the readings which we just reviewed. After you post your answer, you'll see the author's solution. Then I want you to discuss what was correct, what was different, and the concepts and principles that you used to complete this assignment. Please post your solution, that would be your Excel spreadsheet, with your initial answer. And we'll take a look here to see how this spreadsheet works exactly. So this is what the spreadsheet will show up either from your course materials or that was attached to the discussion question. So let me show you real quick how this would work. Let's say, for instance, that you bought a piece of land for $500 cash. So the first thing you have to understand is that would be a credit to cash and a debit to land of $500,000. And again, I'm just making up these examples. These are not the transactions from the case. So the first thing we would do is record the credit to cash. And whenever you record a credit in this spreadsheet, you have to put it in as a negative figure. And then we would debit cash for $500,000. And I'm omitting zeros here on this spreadsheet. And you'll see that if you go to the end here of your spreadsheet, that the total here is 0. That's what you want it to read. That means your transaction is balanced and that you've correctly used the dual entry accounting system. What you'll also want to do is make sure that your balance sheet is still in balance with total assets equaling total liabilities and owner's equity. Now let's say the next month you decided you didn't need that piece of land. So you sold it, but you were only able to get $450 for it, or $450,000 for it. So we enter that as a debit into cash. And then because we no longer have the land, we have to credit off the value of the land here. Well, you see that leaves us with a unbalanced transaction of negative $50,000. And if you think about it, if we had the land on our books for $500,000, we're able to sell it for only $450,000. We have what they call a loss on sale, which would be a hit to retained earnings, and we'd enter a debit here for $50,000. And your total would be 0. So that's how this is going to work. And if you have any questions, post them in the questions to instructor or send me a text or an email. The questions to instructor, I try to check that every day, but sometimes I miss. So if you don't hear right back from me, nudge me with a courtesy email or text. That would be very helpful for me and everybody in the class. Now I'd like to spend some time with you going over the Marion Boats individual case study. And you'll see that I have a folder under week 4 for that. So we'll go into that folder to see what's here. And the first thing is where you will actually submit the case study after you have completed it. The next item is the case study itself. Now, when you read through this Harvard case study, it's going to ask you to do something completely different than what I'm going to ask you to do. The case study goes through and talks about 2 brothers who started a boat shop or a boat sales place, and all the things that happen in the first few months of operation. And then at the end they ask you to answer these 5 questions. Do not answer these 5 questions. Again, I repeat, do not answer these 5 questions. What I want you to do instead is take the completed balance sheet and income statement that I've prepared for you and explain it. And there's 2 things that I want you to do. First, I want you to explain how each account got its balance. And you should be able to do that from the information that was in the case study. Then I want you to tell me what principles or concepts were used to come up with these balances. Now, there may not be a specific principle or concept for each account, but for most of them you can come up with something. So you may be asking yourself, what do I mean by concepts and principles? Well, the first thing you can do is go back to pages 6 and 7 of the online accounting textbook that we took a look at on the first week. And pages 6 and 7 list many of the concepts and principles. Then I've also added the notes on generally accepted accounting principles in your reading for this week. And you may and you will find many principles and concepts too that you can apply against these accounts. Now, students that have been most successful with this have done really 3 things. First, they've given me an introduction in narrative form that describes what was going on. The 2 brothers are starting a boat company. Then maybe another paragraph about what are some overarching principles that cover the entire statement preparation process. Things like maybe accrual accounting or materiality. So those might be some things you'd want to discuss there. Then, when they discuss each individual account, what they usually do is just take the spreadsheet and put one column that's description, and then another column that's the concepts, and fill this in here, embed it into the Word document, and there's a video under course materials that shows you how to do that, and then finish off with a short conclusion. It's not acceptable to just complete this spreadsheet and then turn that in. Because it's graduate level work, it must have an introduction, the body can be the spreadsheet, and then the conclusion. If you choose to, and I'm going to tell you it's more difficult and more confusing, you can use a narrative for each one of these accounts, but students that have been most successful use the spreadsheet to do that. So again, do not answer these questions at the end of the case. That's not the expectation. Other than that, just one other thing I'd like to mention, and that's there is a change to the syllabus. I've taken 2 readings from week 4 because we have a lot to do this week, and I put them to week 5, week 6, and that is the choice of business entity and what's the difference between a compilation, a review, and an audit. So have a great week. Call me with any questions, and I'll be glad to help you in any way that I can.